We're back now on Try It Today. Time to talk about a serious topic, one that might help us out if we happen to need this some point in the future. J. Paul, our director, let's meet our special guest. Barbara Rynne is a former district attorney and now an attorney with the Dummett Law Firm, and she's going to help us through the topic of structured sentencing. We're going to learn all about that. Welcome, Barbara. How you doing?
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
What is structured sentencing? Is there a simple way to explain this?
I guess the simplest way to explain it is that structured sentencing is the way that the courts sentence certain crimes. There's felony sentencing, there's misdemeanor sentencing, and then there's DWI sentencing, which is completely separate and doesn't fall under the structured sentencing. Structured sentencing looks at or takes into consideration the class of offense that the defendant is charged with, as well as his prior record level. He's assessed points for each prior conviction.
So if you do something bad, you might not get the same punishment as somebody who did the same thing bad, but they had also done 3 other things bad before then.
That's correct, and that's the whole reason behind the state instituting the structured sentencing, is they wanted to make sure that it was uniform across the state, and that if you committed the same crime and had the same prior record as somebody else in a different part of the state committing the same crime with the same prior record, that they would get the same sentence.
Yeah, and of course, you and I could do an hour on this, and I don't want to take up your time, but it just, one of the things maybe we can talk about when you come back sometime is people who are critics of this whole system and say, well, wait a minute, I don't care if they did the same crime, they should do the same time, and yet they don't because one has a worse record than the other. But the victims or the families or whatever, you know, feel a certain way about this. So maybe we can come back, since you were a district attorney, but we can talk about that. You said felonies and misdemeanors. Give us a quick example of a felony, a quick example of a misdemeanor. What might be the difference?
When you get into the lesser class felonies and the higher class misdemeanors, there's not much of a difference. A Class A1 misdemeanor is the highest level of misdemeanor crime in the state of North Carolina. If you are a prior record level 3 for misdemeanor sentencing purposes, a Class A1 misdemeanor is punishable by up to 150 days in jail. If you are a class, here if we look at the sentencing chart, I do have a sentencing chart with me.
Right.
If we have a Class I felony, which is the lowest level felony in the state of North Carolina, and you're the maximum prior record level, which is a prior record level 6, you're looking at somewhere between 8 to 10 months active.
Now, you're talking about, we traded emails earlier about this, and you said, Jim, you said something about a range, that the judge has a range in which he can structure the sentence. What does that mean again?
The judge does have a range. If you, again, looking at the sentencing chart, and I never go anywhere without my sentencing chart.
Me either.
The range that you see in the box, 8 to 10, that's the minimum range that the judge can sentence. So the judge can give a minimum term of anywhere from 8 months to 10 months.
So if we have a family member who, God forbid, got in trouble with something, and maybe he or she has been sitting in jail for 30 days and then gets sentenced to, let's say, 90 days. There's a thing called time served, and then there's community punishment, and there's intensive time. What are the differences in all that?
There is. Within the sentencing chart, there are different blocks based upon, again, the prior record level and then the level of offense. Each one of those blocks is assigned either a C, an I, or an A, or all 3. C being community punishment, I being the intermediate punishment, and A being straight active time, which is just straight jail time. Each block is designated 1 or all 3 of those, and the judge is allowed to sentence within that block. So, for example, if you're on a Class H felony, a prior record level 4, the judge is allowed to give you either an intermediate sentence or an active sentence. If you get up to a Class D felony, the judge is only allowed to give you a straight active sentence. He cannot impose probation by law.
Okay. Well, there is some consistency there, and again, I want to get you back sometime and talk about things, including, how you might might be driving drunk and hit somebody or a pedestrian, and in one county you get a certain sentence, and in another county you get another. And I want to talk about some of those inconsistencies. But before we lose time, since you're a first-time guest, just tell me how you got into the law and being a district attorney and everything, very quickly.
I got into the law after my father. He was an attorney also, and he was a district attorney up in New Jersey. So I kind of followed in his footsteps.
So a good role model. Did you did you go to work with him and go to court?
Well, I worked with him while I was in college. I went to the same college that he did. I worked with him in his practice while I was in college, and then I
And what college was that?
Colgate University.
How about that? Father-daughter team there. Well, that's great. That's good to know. And when we get you back, like I said, a lot of things I want to pin you down on, and maybe you can give me your opinion on it. But here's some information on screen for the Dummett Law Firm, www.nclawyer.com, for information on how to contact the Dummett Law Firm if you need their help.